Then I tell you, if we are to tame darkness, we must first face that it exists. Meine Herren, we are here countering the undead plague carrier, the vampire, Nosferatu.
Hey, yo, friends, what's going on? Welcome back. A brand new Monday, a brand new week, a brand new episode of your favorite podcast and mine, In Madness Pod, episode 41, part 2 of our Nosferatu episode. I'm Shawn the Butcher here with Vertebrae33, a very dark Vertebrae33. What's going on? Oh, is it a longer mustache?
The Butcher. Soon your bride will be mine.
Catch your breath, Nosferatu. He's got props if you're checking this out on YouTube. He looks less like Super Mario, and now I'd say more like Count Orlok.
Orlok.
Is that a new mustache or a different one from last week?
How dare you ask about my mustache?
Lord!
You know, I gotta go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's an extended version of the mustache, Shawn, because you said the mustache didn't look good last week, so I figured I had to add other pieces to this mustache to make it even bigger. I think he's making an appearance later on. I have so like my daughter needed something for school that had like fake mustaches.
Oh, perfect.
So like I ordered it on Amazon and I got like 200 fake mustaches.
What the fuck?
So I just have all these packages of fake mustaches. So, you know, I don't know, maybe this year at Comic-Con you get a free mustache with purchase or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I honestly thought about growing a mustache for this episode, and that would have showed some real commitment on my part. But I would have also had to sort of function in the rest of the world as that went on. So, you know.
I think accidentally ordering a gross of mustaches and just having them inconveniently all over the place is
yeah. There's black, there's brown, there's blonde. We got different shapes. This one is a few mustaches put together, so I just ripped a couple apart and added it on and extended it out. You know, myself and Robert Eggers. You know, we spare no expense.
I was going to say the budget is through the roof with the premier podcast, In Madness Pod, on the socials at In Madness Pod. Email us. We have a couple of emails which we will get into in a upcoming 0.5, maybe not the next 0.5, but definitely an upcoming 0.5. If you want to email us, send us a voice note. We will also play your voice note in madnesspod@gmail.com. You can check us out on YouTube. You can see Vertebrae's string of mustaches. Make sure you like and subscribe, comment, give us the 5-star reviews. Check out the In Madness Spotify playlist, which now has Fit for an Autopsy, a buttload of Typo Negative, and many, many other bands, like 8 hours plus of music. You could put it on for the beginning of the workday and never hear the same song twice. Happy In Madness Monday. That's when you're listening. We drop a new episode every single week, no matter how insane our lives are, just for you to have a new episode every Monday. The worst day of the week, we turn it to the best day of the week. Spread the madness. Tell everyone you know about the show. Spread the tentacles worldwide. You can get yourself a shirt, inmadness.com. Get yourself a mug, inmadness.com. Vertebrae, unveil this week's mug, if you may.
You know, it's a repeat
Nosferatu
mug. But Shawn, when you mentioned the shirts, we have our new logo shirt is up now for purchase in all sizes. Get the new logo, In Madness Podcast logo. That's also on the new mug, available at inmadness.com.
Sick.
Go check it out. And there's lots of other goodies up there too. You can buy some merch from me as well. But Shawn, I am so deep into this world.
I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty for something thick and red and slurpily delicious.
Oh God, I'm not. That's too deep into the
You
world.
don't have a
Yeah.
craving for blood
No.
after all of this vampire
I
lore that we've been taking in?
No, I have a craving for more facts, Shawn, more gnarly bits. My
Okay.
craving is out of control. I often wake up in the middle of the night
Mm.
and stumble about the house yelling about more gnarly bits. Yes, I'm not biting the head off of birds. It's off of encyclopedias that I'm biting,
Mm.
But Shawn, I am listening to the audiobook of Dracula.
Mhm.
I have listened to almost nothing but Typo Negative
Mhm.
as we went along. I've watched this film a multitude of times. I watched the making of, I watched the extras, I read a million articles. I think there's more to certainly dive in to Dracula unto itself, and I don't think this is the episode for it. I do think there's a space to do Bram Stoker's Dracula film, from way back in the 90s. I think that we could probably do that at a later date. But if
Well,
you
I'm
don't like vampires,
definitely gonna talk about it very soon. Maybe not in this episode, but definitely very
yeah.
soon. But
If
yes.
you're not crazy about vampires, we just ruined your whole month of listening.
So
But
let me tell you, and like just and I'll quickly. I'm not a big vampire dude.
me neither.
I've never been a big vampire dude, but for this movie and for like a little bit of further research, boy, have I been vampire crazy the
Mm.
past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I wanted to, and you're going to bring us up to speed with the movie and where we stopped. But we didn't go into this in the beginning and just the comparisons between Nosferatu and Dracula and the characters. So there's the Ellen Hutter character who's Mina Harker in Bram Stoker's Dracula. There's Thomas Hutter who's Jonathan Harker. Obviously, Orlok famously is Count Dracula, but we also get Defoe's character who's famously Van Helsing, who they've done a lot with in other parts of this franchise as well, and Herr Nock is Renfield, which they've started to do more and more with that character as well. So Einson's character William Severs is John Seward. So there's a lot of Anya Harding is really Lucy Westerno in the book, but the book is so much different than the film. We'll get into it in another episode because I having listened to the director's commentary, you can just hear two things that we know about Robert Eggers. One, the dude loves to build a movie with tons of gnarly bits. Like I think if I met him, we'd either have like fantastic conversations or we'd annoy each other into oblivion. And two, he loves to go back to source material. So in this case, he's going back to vampire folklore, which, pre-exists Bram Stoker's story by tons of time. So he kind of looks and dives into that a little bit. So it is fair to obviously compare it to Dracula because Nosferatu, the silent film, was based on it. But it kind of does it a disservice if you don't also kind of dig into some of his source material. And one of the things when we go through the film, just think about this as you're going through. But on his commentary, he noted that there was too much haze in the film. And at different scenes, there's so much detail that they put into everything. And there's a few I'll call out when we get to it that he called out that he wishes, there was too much haze on that take, but the acting performance was perfect. So he went with that take. But there's just an incredible amount of work that he constantly does into putting into these films. And then I think at the end, we could sort of talk about where this sits in our Robert Eggers pantheon of films, from his 4 films. I'm interested. The other thing to note is he did a play of this in high school too. So he's been obsessed, and he worked on this film, as we said in episode 1, for 10 years, kind of on and off as he was doing other things. So this is definitely his life's work in a lot of ways.
Quickly, I have to ask, what out of all of the typo negative you've been taking in what is your one favorite typo negative song? So we added Christian Woman, so I want to add each one of our favorite typo songs. Do you have, aside from Christian Woman, a favorite typo song?
Oh, oh man, that's so
just
hard.
one. We'll add one of
That's
yours
hard.
and one of my favorites, and we'll have.
Let me look. Let me just look. I am so bad with song titles, Shawn.
Well,
so I'm gonna look really. Your favorite is what?
So my favorite is "Who Will Save the Sane" from the album World Coming Down.
Okay.
Great song. I will add that to the In Madness Spotify playlist. You don't have to find it right now. We could
No, but
add it.
I listen. I'm obviously you're
I
gonna say
did
the
just
hits.
throw you completely
It's
on
okay.
the spot.
I'm so bad at remembering song
Yeah,
names,
yeah,
and then when I
yeah.
look at it, I'm like, oh, okay.
Mhm,
I mean, obviously, Black Number One is a huge hit.
mhm.
I like his covers, like Cinnamon Girl and Summer Breeze are really cool. There's just there's so many. I'm gonna have to think about it. To pick one, Sean, I'm really bad at
I'll give you some
really
time to
bad.
do it. You don't have to do it now, but I
Yeah.
already know that my favorite. I mean, and I love All Hallows Eve and Creepy Green
Yes.
Light. There's so many good ones, but yeah, I'm just for my one, I'm gonna throw on Who Will Save the Sane.
You know what's funny is "Love You to Death" is kind of an interesting song for this this movie that we're doing right now too.
I'll
I
let you
think,
think about it. You let me know after. Shall we recap where we left off on our last episode?
yeah, let's go.
So we got Ellen Hutter calling out for help during a rough time. She ends up being discovered or linked or possessed by this manifestation of evil, Nosferatu. Years later, she's married to Thomas. Thomas works for Herr Knock, who has sealed the deal with Count Orlok to move to where they currently live in Visburg. But in order to sign the deed, for some reason, Thomas has to jackass all across the country to bring this deed to the Count instead of his old dusty ass coming to sign it when he moves to Visburg. Ellen has also having been strange nightmares again. People think she's disturbed. She's
Mhm.
currently under the supervision of Thomas's homie Harding, who's caring for Ellen while Tom's getting the deed signed. But it turns out Eric Knock has made a deal with the devil, Count Orlok, and has given him Thomas, handing him over on a silver platter so Count Orlok can not only sign the deed, but also have Thomas sign a contract, which he can't read, that essentially hands Ellen right back to Orlok after all these years. Thomas is losing large chunks of time. Also notice his hickeys on his chest. Turns out Orlok has trapped Thomas in his castle and is living off him like he's a human Slurpee machine, just gulping Thomas's blood on a nightly basis. Thomas is losing his mind. He attempts to kill Orlok, totally fails, and now Orlok has Thomas trapped in this dark trance, and he's now on his way to reclaim Ellen. She's freaking out, so Harding gets Dr. Sievers to fill her up full of ether so she can chill out. And it turns out Eric Knock gets himself thrown into the loony bin for eating sheep down at the Christmas market. Raw. Eric Knock tells Doc he is the servant of his lordship who will kill and devour the world. He pulls the Ozzy Osbourne, bites the head off the pigeon, shooting a geyser of blood everywhere. Knock says he is coming, then freaks out, attacks the doctor. Cut to Ellen in bed, spazzing out, possessed, having a seizure, eyes rolling back on her head. Doc and Harding are trying to restrain her. Anna, Harding's wife, is there watching in absolute horror.
Mhm.
And that is where we left you on our last thrilling episode of In Madness Pod. So much cool stuff happening already, and like we haven't got to like the coolest stuff yet. I love that.
Yeah, and this when we get to uh Ellen doing this and Lily Rose Depp doing this character where she's writhing about and contorting and all of that, they had an expert on set teach her to do that stuff. So that's Eggers is always going to do this. That's all her. And in fact, there's a scene later on where she really contorts and she could have actually bent her back more, but they didn't because he thought it would look like too unrealistic. So when you watch this movie again, just watching her, you're like, nothing is sped up. None of her movements are sped up. None of them are altered. That's all done in camera. There are things that they do in the movie that they've had to do CG or parts of it with CG, but he's gonna, we can get to it later, build as many of these things as he possibly can in camera or train the actors to do what he needs them to do in camera. And she just does an incredible job.
So after the melee, Harding is having a smoke with the doctor in front of the fireplace, and doctor is doing cocaine. Did you see this?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, opiates were a big deal then. Their opiates are throughout too, like Sherlock Holmes as well. Cocaine is very common as well in Sherlock Holmes. So it's interesting too. This fireplace, Shawn, it's tiled on the inside, and that's certainly a sign of opulence. Like only like rich people at that time are going to tile the inside of their fireplace. The other thing too, Eggers mentions this, is a lot of these scenes, and you can never see it because it's either too dark or, as he said, too much haze at certain points. But at this time, they would put pillows on the floor to put your feet on. I guess, you're so rich that you don't even want your feet to touch the floor when you sit somewhere. So they did it for this scene, but like you can't even see it. But yeah, cocaine and other opiates and stuff were very common at this time for the rich, for the upper class.
Yes, Harding is filthy rich. However, he has nothing but problems this entire movie. Doc is telling Harding about Air Canuck. He's been admitted to the hospital because he is now insane. Him and Ellen share a similar motto. He is coming. We cut to Thomas, found half dead laying across a river by a woman. She takes him back to her colony. Thomas surrounded by nuns praying over him.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this too, one is she's gathering like those sticks. That's such a cool shot of her walking. Also, where she finds him kind of by the river, has a little bit of a witch feel
Yep.
to it there, which I thought was really interesting. And when we get to this set, Edgar says that's one of his favorite sets. So when they do what is it, like is it a monastery? Is that where the nuns live?
Yeah, they're up just praying over him in some dark,
nun house. I probably it's called a nun house.
The nun house.
But very cool.
Doc tells Harding about one of my favorite characters in this film, possibly ever, Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz. Doc tells Harding the man is Swiss and disgusted. Harding's like, what? Swiss? All of Harding's lines in this movie are very entertaining to me. Von Franz is the only man who may be able to help Ellen. He is a physician, a scholar at school. He was my finest teacher. However, Von Franz was tossed out of the university, laughed out of his country, became obsessed with the work of Paracelsus and Agrippa.
Yep.
And Harding's like, I work in a shipyard, man. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, so Paracelsus is kind of a really interesting dude. Yeah, involved with alchemy, but also kind of known, he weaves magic and alchemy into his science, but he is somebody that, helped establish chemistry in medicine. So the use of chemistry. I took this quick personal aside. I left college for many years and finally went back to graduate. And when I did, I went as a double major, surprise to no one on this podcast, both art and history for my love of gnarly bits. And I took a class called Health and Disease in Early Modern Europe. Very specific class taught by this incredible professor who came from, she had an English accent. I forget what university she came from on loan. And what an amazing class. I have some of the books from it as well, but I did a paper on Paracelsus, but I called my paper Fairies Wear Boots after
so sick. So we are now adding Black Sabbath Fairies Wear Boots to the Spotify playlist. Gold star, Vertebrae.
But I have some Paracelsus books if you're interested. Of
course you do. Of course.
Very
some Paracelsus books.
I do.
What about Agrippa? What about Agrippa?
I don't think so. I mean, I could look and see. I'm not really sure. He has he published this other book, which was like the Great Surgery book in 1536. And he does a clinical description of syphilis in 1530. I don't have that book.
That's not the one you have.
No.
That's wild. Doc says alchemy, mystic philosophy, the occult. Oh shit. Now we're back in Hellboy territory. Who wins in a fight? Hellboy or Nosferatu?
I mean, it's Hellboy because
Hellboy's gonna whoop his old ass.
He can fight through mourning if you just drag the fight out, right? If you just stay alive long enough, then you're good.
Chain him to a wall. That's so funny. Yeah. Orlok would get his ass whooped, but I feel like he could turn into bats and wolves. I feel like I established that somewhat in the last episode where I
No
just
bats though, Sean. That's what's interesting about
I
this.
feel like in the movie, yeah, there are no
Yeah,
bats,
there are no
but I
bats, and
do hear like a bat whoosh at
you
a
hear
quick
some
point, but
noise.
just really quick. Not
Yep.
no physical bats. Maybe they didn't want to give a Batman vibe.
Yeah, I think Eggers tried to really pull away from things that are considered, too Dracula like for this and give make it more of a fairy tale, a folk tale. Obviously handling Dracula's and Orlok in this case is not really beautiful and disfigured, and all of that is a lot different than what we see in pop culture and we've seen for him over the years, that getting bit is actually like kind of an honor. You get to be a vampire and live forever, or you get to hang out with the Lost Boys or something like that. But this is a different case. It's treated like a plague. It's treated as disgusting. And Sean, you don't take this clip and separate it for our clips online, but
Oh
this
shit.
movie stinks. And by stinks, I mean this movie has to smell so bad. If there was smell-o-vision, good God, there's no way. All the blood, all the rats, all just
Rotting corpses in the street.
rotting corpses, things burning. This just, yeah.
Cut to all the nuns surrounding Thomas, praying. Thomas spazzing out, jolts awake and screams, "No, Orlok!" The nuns tell him about the black enchanter, Solomonar. The devil preserved his soul so his corpse may walk again in blasphemy, and you, Thomas, are being stalked by him.
Mm-hmm.
Tom's like, "I gotta go." The nuns beg him to stay. Thomas is freaking out. "I was gonna join the firm. I came down here to sell the Count a house in Visburg." He is just like, what is going on? I love it. I love it.
Yeah, poor Thomas. In a lot of ways, he just wants that good life, like his buddy. And even their place, Eggers points out, is nice looking. Thomas's place, and they've got some fancy things in it, but it's not very big. And they're trying to sort of make it look a little nicer than it is, that they hope they get to the same level as their friends. So we can all relate. Like he's just desperate to, he's fallen in love with this girl. It's the love of his life. He's looking past the fact that she's hung out with the devil, or, had a date at midnight with Nosferatu.
She's in league with Satan.
And he's cool with it still, Sean. He's so in love. He's cool with it. Can I make a quick segue?
Yeah.
About being so in love?
Yes. Oh, cute. You built that right in. That was cute.
Who also is so in love? Sean's not going to say it out loud, but I'm going to say it out loud for him. Sean, if you follow him in the socials, you would know, has gotten engaged.
Thank you.
Which is
thank you.
Incredible. It's
Hell
awesome.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I really want him, being inspired by Nosferatu, to have some crazy giant wedding where he's in a sarcophagus or something like that. But I don't think that's going to happen. But, I would be there building the set for you and putting lots of odds and ends, and, not too much haze so we could see it all very clearly. But congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have been retelling the story over and over, and I'll just share it. I'll share it right now because I told it, and this way it'll get it out there even more. It's very cool. I got to shout out John, my man from Wreath of Tongues, who works at Ohika Castle here in Long Island, New York. I know John from just the bands performing around the clubs of Long Island, New York. Wreath of Tongues, they're legendary because John, who works at the castle, comes in dressed to the nines in a 3-piece suit and then bangs out a grindcore set. And everyone's like, oh, this is frigging awesome. So that's how I got to know John. And then we became friendly, and immediately he was like, man, I work at Ohika Castle. Come through and check it out. And we got like this gnarly room. It's gigantic room. And then we had great food. We walked around this gnarly like mansion. I don't know if you've ever been to Ohika Castle. I think you would friggin' love it. It's a gnarly bit come to life. It's one of the coolest places I've ever seen. And then as the sun was setting, I proposed, and then neither of us could remember if she said yes or not because we were both kind of freaking out. And it was very romantic, and it was very Nosferatu like. And I feel like Nosferatu is very romantic as well, even though he's a little dark and twisted. And I like to think that the spirit of Nosferatu was with me while I was proposing during the sunset. I wasn't burning alive. There wasn't blood pouring out of my eyes, nose, and mouth. Yeah, it
Right.
was
There was no Cox Crow. You didn't.
the
There
first
was no
cock
Cox Crow.
crow. But yeah, thank you. It was very cool. I love Vanessa. She's the best, and I'm stoked. And yeah, it really went flawlessly, and it was a perfect day. And it was like the first day was nice out and not like freezing. It was just like a really, really cool,
That's
perfect day.
fantastic.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
The nuns tell Thomas to stay. They say this evil must return to the cursed earth from where it was buried. But Thomas like, he seeks after Ellen. Cut to this beautiful shot. Looks like a painting. Ship on the water. Sun setting on one side. Blackness of pouring rain on the other side.
And Shawn, the sound in this. So Eggers calls this out, and he kind of got this from some Hammer horror films, which he leans into a lot for this. He leans into a lot of Sherlock Holmes in the second part of this, and his love of Hammer horror films as well. But the music is kind of says Nosferatu, so it's like this kind of goes like Nosferatu. Like as you hear it again, you'll hear it the beat for beat of that, which is really cool.
That's pretty creepy. We got this big box on this ship, red stamped the 7-pointed star of Orlok. Inside the box, we hear him. He says, soon I will no longer be a shadow. Soon our flesh will embrace and we will be one. That's how I kind of felt like I should have proposed.
Oh my God, could you imagine? I do think it's amazing that you did it at a castle, which I haven't been to. I need to go there. But you did it at the time, amidst the time period of us covering.
Probably like 3 days after we recorded the episode.
Nosferatu. So
I think it was on the release day of the episode. Wow. It was that Monday. It was the Monday we released. No, was it? Yeah.
You see how much this podcast interweaves into our lives. We're giving you all we got for this podcast right here.
The tentacles run through us all. We see the back of Ellen's head intertwined with this sick, almost exorcist-looking shot of Count Orlok, who looks awake, but he's asleep. He's alive, but he's dead. He's almost resting, hibernating. He says, nature, increase thy thunders. Hasten me upon the wings of your barbarous winds, and the skies turn black. We see Herr Canuck locked in his cell, strapped to a chair, screaming, I have not failed you, my lord. You promised gift awaits. Providence. Cut to late at night, dudes pissing in an alley. Harding and Doc are on their way to visit von Franz. Doc's telling the scientific community is trying to prove Franz's work drove him into madness. Quite the theme on this podcast. Harding is less than stoked. Doc assures him even though the professor may be a bit unconventional, he'll get down to the bottom of this issue Ellen is having. They knock on the professor's door, but he insists that they leave. They enter his residence, which kind of looks like V's shadow gallery from V for Vendetta.
Love this place. I wouldn't want to hang out in this place.
I feel like this would be your sanctuary.
Absolutely. And you know what's a bummer about all of these Eggers films is so much work is poured into them, and we do get cool versions on 4K with extras, and he'll do the commentary, and his director's commentaries are fantastic. And he says it at the end of this one. He didn't go to film school, so he learned a lot from listening to directors talk on director's commentary. So he's hoping to teach other people, and like I'm down with that 100%. But what's never come out from any of his movies is any art of books, no making of books, no behind the scenes stuff, no elaborate extended versions of like you get the Blu-ray, but you also get a book of all the notes and a copy of the spell book, or it's just never happened. And I feel like that's something that he has to do one of these times for this film. I know they would sell out instantly, but there's such a wealth of stuff that they put into him, and all the experts that they hire, and all he talks about, and all the Romanians that they brought in. And there's famous Czech actors in this film that are like famous in the Czech Republic that have like a 2-minute part in this. All of that stuff needs to be documented. There needs to be some massive book for each of these films going into it. I want to write it, Shawn. I'm reaching out to Robert Eggers. Let's write one of these books.
I'm going to DM him and ask him if he wants to be on the pod. And let's see what
I don't
happens.
think he's on social media. I think you'd be better. I think you'd be lucky to send
publicist. I'd rather get stabbed through the heart with a spike.
Yeah, got to go through the publicist.
But
my resume does not contain any actual writing.
Well,
skills
that's
on
the
it.
thing. He never went to film school. You never went to writing school. Made
Yeah,
for the part, you know?
exactly.
The doc approaches Von Franz, and it's our boy, Willem Dafoe, the legendary Willem Dafoe. Doc whispers, "No lights dare sanctum cannabis," which I did a little research on this because I was like, did he just
You
talk to him
did.
about weed? So I did my own little gnarly bit research on here, but I really don't know what the hell any of it means. So I'm sure you and I looked up the same thing. It's from the Bible, correct?
I didn't look this up, Shawn. I'm
Oh,
so happy
okay.
that you did.
So, all right. So I didn't do that with much research. So it looks like apparently to the Sean gnarly bits, it's from the Bible, I think. Matthew 7:6. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs.
Mm,
But there's like the rest of that is neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, lest they turn again and rend you.
hmm.
So that's like the full thing again. Like that's even deeper than Robert Eggers' dialogue. So like it's I gotta sink my claws into that, and it's just too
Mhm.
much for me to fathom. But I thought he was just talking about weed because it said cannabis, and I was like, "Oh, cool." He's just like, "Smoke this weed, and we'll go solve this case." But it was
Wait, Shawn, can that be Shawn Facts?
Sean Facts.
Uh,
God damn it!
He's talking about weed.
It is now. Damn it! Haven't had one of those in a while. Von Franz immediately remembers the doc who was once his young student and stands to give him a hug. Now, I would like to think, since this would also be Vertebrae's shrine of sanctuary, that when I came to greet Vertebrae, the exact same thing that happens here would happen with Vertebrae. Doc gives him a hug and pats Von Franz on the back, and this plume of I don't know what it is, dirt, dust, whatever, it just comes flying off of Von Franz's jacket. Like he has just been sitting in that chair for like 4 months and has not moved.
That's a lot of cocaine, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, actually, Eggers points that out, and it was from some John Wayne movie that he saw when he was a kid, and that happens when these two, cowboys come upon each other and they hug, and just all this like dust and smoke comes off them, and he always thought it was a fun little gag that stuck in his head, so he put it into the
No
scene.
detail goes unseen by the in Madness eye for a Robert Eggers movie.
Hmm.
Franz asks the doc, "What's up?" And both the men look at poor Harding. Immediately, Franz knows what the deal is. A dear friend of yours is some rare issue, maybe a house guest of yours, a young woman. She's having fits. Tells Harding, "Looks like hell," and offers him some schnapps. Cut
Mhm.
to Thomas on a horse, leaving exactly like the nuns told him not to do because he is not well.
Yeah, not a nice guy either. Too, he steals. They take him in, and then he steals their horse, and yeah, this is much longer. I mean, a lot of this we get to when we get back to Dracula stuff, but this part takes much longer and than it does here. But you've got to just get through the film. But yeah, I thought that wasn't cool that he took their horse, and like for the horse too. Like maybe the horse was cool where it lived.
The horse disposes of him later. I'll discuss. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's trouble afoot on the ship. Dudes are getting the plague, sores around the mouth, covered in rats. One of the dudes screams, "The devil, our cargo is cursed." Immediately, this dude begins vomiting blood, spewing all over the place. They bring Franz to see Helen. He's infuriated. She's Ellen. He's infuriated. She's tied up. Harding insists it's all I could do to stop her from tearing the room to ribbons. Franz sees Ellen is drugged. Tells the doc he can no longer administer any drugs. She cannot be clouded. Tells Ellen he has come to help her. Franz is curious. Why has Ellen had these spells since childhood? He asks her to describe them. She can't remember, mostly like her spirit wanders off. It's like a dream. Her
Mhm.
mother passed when she was young and she got older. Her episodes frightened her father. Ellen felt alone and wished for comfort. There was a presence, nightmares, epileptic fits. Once her dad found her naked, he was yelling at her, "Sinner!" It all ended when she met Thomas. Everything was normal, but now these visions have returned. Ellen is scared for Thomas. She tells Franz her dreams grow darker. Does evil come from within us or beyond? But Franz does not know.
Yeah, and I love this. There's a cat in the scene. I do not have the cat's name, but we will certainly get back to this cat at the end of the film because something epic happens in this movie that's never happened on an In Madness film ever before that we reviewed. But such a well-trained cat. He calls out, I think it's like the Baresh family cat training, but Eggers doesn't give a name. But to have it jump up on the bed at that moment, you're a cat owner, Shawn. Like to get them to do what you want them to do when you want is difficult. So, was we do like a shout out to the cat, phenomenal.
Cut to Ellen, fully entranced, eyes rolling back in her head, moaning like she's possessed. Franz asks the doc if he has bled her to decrease the congestion. He says yes. Ellen's having regular menstruations. Franz says too much blood. Too much blood. Again, I asked this in the last episode. Like, I feel like this is what Orlok is after. I feel like she's got this like excess of blood and she's like a fountain of youth for him that he can always live off of.
Maybe it's weird. I took it the second or third time I watched it is just there's a connection because he's been at her husband and there's just a weird connection between the two of them. Yeah, but interesting.
Franz apologizes to Harding and Anna for this grotesque performance. He needs them to see she is fully entranced. He takes her arm and sticks a large needle right through her forearm. They cringe, but he insists she feels nothing. She communes with another realm now.
Franz what's crazy, Shawn, to cut you off, is that's actually was done to in Eggers' words, to hysterical women in a shocking state at that time, they would like do that. And I don't know why they just couldn't like pinch them or something. Like that's just so dramatic and so, just so interesting. Did they also do it to the men? I don't know, but just weird.
I'll say it many more times throughout this episode. These old times suck. And I love it when he does the needle through the forearm. Harding clutches his chest as if to be shocked and appalled. Ellen is on the bed moaning in a trance. Franz yells to her to speak. She says, "Enduring night, a specter of death." Very cool band name. He spreads his shadow. He is coming. Ellen breaks out into this insane seizure. Then Ellen goes full crab, jolts her spine in the air while their head and feet are still on the bed. Yeah,
very Exorcist. And there's also a mention of Abomination, which if you're a Dune fan out there is very Dune. And we don't have time to get into what that entails. But this is I would say this is sort of the most Exorcist scene in the movie.
I feel like there's still more coming too.
Yeah.
She collapses. She slowly rises, tossing her head around, moaning, but not sexy like it was a second ago. Now it's like sick and twisted. It kind of sounds like Reagan from The Exorcist. She begins to gag and choke, and Franz is yelling at her to speak to him in a twisted, demonic voice. She says, "I shall persist to join you every night, first in sleep, then in your arms. Everything will be mixed with abomination, and you'll be knee-deep in blood. Everyone will cry. There will be none to bury but the dead." Sick. She slams back into the bed and her body keeps contorting. She's screaming, "Your promise to me." Franz is confused. Promised? Anna screams, "Ellen is talking about her husband, but I don't think she is." Ellen begins screaming, "Help me," just like what was carved into Reagan's stomach in The Exorcist. After the madness, Franz is smoking his enormous pipe next to a Christmas tree. And tells Harding that Ellen is cursed, possessed, possibly by a demon.
Yeah, he says, highly conductive to cosmic forces. That is the first single off my album, Micro Changes in Air Density's first album. That's our first single, highly conductive to cosmic forces. I love this scene. This scene is very Sherlock Holmes and Watson. It's Blaney back and forth. Eggers points that out as well. And I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff.
Harding isn't having it. Doc tries to console Harding and tells him that Franz isn't being literal. And Franz is like, "Yes, I am. She is possessed by a demon." Anna asks how. Franz says demonic spirits easily obsess those with lower animal functions. Demons seek them out. They can discover victims across mountains, great oceans. I feel like this is what happened with Reagan in The Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
Doc is like lower animal functions, and Franz is like, yeah, hysterics, children, loonies. Oh, and also, you got to introduce me to Herr Knock tomorrow. Franz tells Doc and Harding that Ellen has always been highly conductive, yes, to these cosmic forces Vertebrae mentioned, perhaps like your loony man, her Eric Knock. Doc asks if he thinks there's a connection. Franz is like, who knows, man? And again, Harding is pretty pissed off. Franz is like, this evil, what it is, how it's been summoned, unleashed, I don't know, but it's chained itself to Ellen, and now she's in grave danger. He returns to his studies. He says, no more drugs. Doc's like, she's going to rave all night. Then rave she must. There's a dread storm arising, kind of like in Lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
On the boat, they're dumping dead bodies into the water.
Mm.
One of the crewmen has had enough. He's going to end this plague and this devil. I fucking love this scene. Heads down to the storage area. It's quiet. It's dark. All this rain, pouring, thunder, lightning. Crewman is carrying an axe in one hand, dimly lit lantern in the other. He's slowly, nervously approaching the box, and in between all this crap hanging and dangling from the rafters, you see a figure like move or morph or shape, the bony back all chewed up, and it stiffens and stretches when the dude passes it, but the dude doesn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
He approaches the box, opens it with the axe, pushes open the lid, the camera moves down, box full of rats. Camera moves up, and there's Nude Orlok standing behind the dude, and Chomp takes a big old bite, sucking down that delicious, sweet blood. Cut to Eric Knox still tied up in his chair in his cell, which he is knocked over. He's laying on the floor. A guard comes in to sit him upright. Eric Knox has all this nasty foam dripping out of his mouth. He goes, listen, grabs the guard by his head and says, his lordship has come. And Chomp takes a big old bite of the guard's neck and says, the blood is the life. Eric Knock then escapes out in the rain with his crazy ass like Michael Myers when he ran out of Smith's Grove, and Eric Knock has just been beside himself. He's here. His lordship is here. The blood is the life.
And Shawn, in that scene, he's on a chair and you can see it's tipped on its side. There's like a bucket under the chair. So they would have strapped him to the chair and he'd take his pants off, so he can go number 2 in the bucket. And so when it's tipped over and he's running, if we get back to the grossness of this movie, this guy's just got dried shit all over him as he's running with no pants. That's why he has no pants up the street.
I also
and that
feel
is
like the walls are covered in dried shit as well.
Yeah, maybe if his hands aren't tied, maybe he's flinging it or something. But yeah, just absolutely disgusting. The foaming at the mouth too. I don't know what that is, but that's really, really
Eric
gross.
Knock is one of the superstars of this movie. He's a scumbag, but all of his spots are like epic.
Yeah. And Shawn, the rats. So we'll see it later on as well. There were 5,000 live rats used for this film.
I was wondering if it was going to be like the Cloverfield trick, where it was just a couple of rats and then they legit just reusing them.
5,000. There are some CG rats that they kind of mixed in, either really far out or ones that would be like really close to the camera. There's a scene earlier on. There was a scene where Orlok's in the coffin and they open it and there's rats in there and the maggots. And that was Skarsgård in that coffin with real rats, and they had maggots and stuff on them. So just they put a lot into this film. Eggers mentions a lot of people being cold on set and worried that people were going to get sick because they're using a lot of rain in this film at certain points. And then we get a lot of like the fake snow too. But when they're doing the rain, there's kind of no way to fake the water and being soaking wet and it's cold and they're filming over and over again.
The ship is approaching Visburg. Ellen gasps and says, he's here. We think she means Orlok. Maybe she does, but no, she means Thomas. He has arrived. Dude is tattered. He's on his horse. He pulls up to Harding's house, and this is the part that I love. The horse walks up with Thomas, sort of like shakes its ass and like throws him off, and then the horse just does a 180 and walks right back out the door.
This is where, Shawn, my in madness brain is gonna, and I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is where this film doesn't make any logistical sense to me. Okay, so we've got Orlok, who's in his coffin on a boat with the dirt and everything, because he has to have the dirt with him. So he's going to go on a boat and go all the way around, because he's in Transylvania, which is right near Germany. So this takes place in Germany. He's going to go all the way around through the Black Sea, other places. You can map it out. And the other dude's going to take a horse, and they're going to arrive almost at the same time there. Why even take the boat?
Well, how else is Orlok?
Yeah, why be
How
on
else
a
is he
boat?
gonna get there?
Well, I mean, we just had a magical carriage that picked up Thomas. And nobody
Is
was
this what you
even.
mentioned in the first episode? 'Cause
Yeah,
you were like, it
nobody
can
was
take
even
some
driving
people.
it, right? So we've introduced this carriage, and in the Dracula book, it's actually Dracula that's driving the carriage. But we introduced this carriage in the original story, not Nosferatu, the silent film, but in the original Dracula story, this all takes place in England. So getting on a boat to go from Transylvania to England makes a lot of sense. He's also transported with like 20 something. In one story, somebody said 50 something, but it's massive amounts of dirt as well, because he needs all of that dirt to go with him to the new place. In this case, there could be more of them, but we focus on one. And if there's more, I guess that would make sense that you would need to transport it on a boat. That being said, the idea that you're going to transport on a boat and then take everybody out on the boat doesn't make any logistical sense either.
It's a good place for him to hide from the sunlight.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it would have taken so much longer.
But he told the winds and the lords of the rain to speed up his journey.
Yeah. I just think this is where you've got to suspend your belief a little. And it's funny because Eggers will talk about this a few times in his commentary about some things that he did that weren't like period correct or didn't make a lot of sense to him. And I'll point out a few later on, but he's just sort of like, oh, well, like I got to do it to make sense of the movie. This is where I think this movie actually could have been a little bit longer in some places, but also just they made it Germany for the silent film because it was being released in Germany and they just wanted people to speak to it. But this is one of the things where I think they could have flipped. He could easily just flip this back to England.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter. It also explains why everybody speaks English with English accents,
which you brought up in our previous episode,
right? And not be Germany. But I think that's just Eggers' love of the original source material for him, which was Nosferatu.
They bring Thomas inside, shocked to see that Orlok has not yet found Ellen. Thomas tells her that Orlok has her locket. There is a knock on Harding's door. Dude is pissed. Who the hell is it? It's past 3 a.m. There's some worried men at his doorstep. They walk Thomas over to the ship dock where he's like in charge of. This is how he became a millionaire. And there's Orlok's boat, obliterated, smashed to pieces, crashed all up on the dock. Rats are everywhere. It's a plague ship. Cut to Orlok at his new house in Visburg with his best bud, crazy-ass Eric Knock. Orlok's annoyed that Thomas is still alive, but says he could still use him. Eric Knock begs to help. Orlok, he says he's going to bring him his pretty belonging. But Orlok tells him she may only repledge her vow willingly. She cannot be stolen. Eric Knock begs Orlok has had enough of this putrid pile of crap. Eric Knock backhands him and tells him he's annoying. Orlok walks away and he's holding Ellen's locket and says, daylight is coming and the bells of dawn shall toll in despair of my coming. Oh, and there's Count Orlok on our YouTube.
Butcher. Now that I am in my home, I bring once again to you black.
Oh, jelly beans.
Jelly beans. They come from my homeland.
Oh man, Vertebrae, the impressions guy on In Madness.
What happened? What
What was
happened to
that?
me?
What was that? Oh, is this like a Clark Kent Superman thing?
You ruined me.
What
What
happened?
happened? What happened?
Like
What's
your
going
chest.
on?
Are there hickeys on your
I
chest?
thought I was alone. I got a Nosferatu logo on my sweatshirt. That's all I got.
Was
Oh
somebody
no.
sucking on your sweet insides?
Oh god, no.
Orlok walks away. He's holding Ellet's locket. Daylight is coming. Bells of dawn shall toll in despair of my coming. He inhales the locket and says, I shall taste of you. It's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. Morning bells toll. Streets are filled with rats. This is the smell-o-vision part. Ellen is by Thomas's bedside. Dude is messed up. Ellen wants to see Professor Franz because he mentioned a demon caused all this, but her friend Anna says, for the sake of the children, it's Christmas time. Why must you be so grim?
I think she said Christmas tide, right?
Whatever. It's
Mm.
still like whatever that is.
So, is this a Christmas film?
I mean, this is like the fourth mention, and it came out on Christmas, and there's Christmas trees in the background. Yeah, 100%. I'm saying yes. I will be watching this every December.
So, is it Christmas Day when all of this finally goes down? The end of the
Probably.
film, does that take place on Christmas Day?
That'd be pretty cool.
Hmm.
That'd be pretty sick.
Imagine if the ending was just changed and they just started playing Jingle Bells right at the end.
Run DMC. Christmas
Oh.
in Dallas.
It's Christmas time in Visburg. Mom's cooking. I don't even know what.
Red wine and goddamn
Sausage and kraut. I don't know.
Ellen knows this is a demon possession. Cut to Franz in the dock checking out a dead body, died of the plague. Doc tells him the ship has brought the plague to Visburg. Odd thing is, this man's entire body is absent of blood. There are strange jaw marks on the chest. I've seen some monster rats, but nothing with a bite radius like this. Franz wants to talk to Eric Knock, but the guard standing near them drops the news. Oh, Eric Knock escaped. Great. Franz leaves angrily, telling the doc, this is no mere plague. Cut to this sick shot. Orlok looking out the window. Beautiful starry night, speaking an ancient language, doing the hand maneuver, creepily extending out the window, facing Visburg. We see the shadow hover over Visburg. The entire city, as the hand hovers over each house, you hear men, women, children screaming inside the house that it's hovering over until finally it reaches Thomas and Ellen.
It's very, very cool shot.
Sick shot. Thomas can't breathe. We get a quick horrifying shot of Orlok screeching above him, and then he vanishes. Thomas throws Ellen off of him. Cut to Professor Franz attaching leeches to Thomas as they suck blood from him, feeding on what Mephistopheles called the most special nectar. Harding is there, and he is still unsure about all that's happening. Franz tells him the plague is present and rapidly fatal, a savage blood infection. Franz asks Harding if he's read Glasher's treatise. Of course, Harding has not. Doc explains that long ago a plague ravaged the countryside. The cause? A walking corpse. They had some form of life by feeding off the blood of the living, and everyone died. And Harding thinks he's a madman. Back at the house, Harding's kids are begging not to be put to bed. Anna promises the children, no monsters will harm them. She kisses them goodnight and tells them to say their prayers. Kids pray, Anna leaves, and we get this long shot. Anna creeping down the dark hallway, hearing noises. She's looking around slowly. The camera pans away and shows the staircase. Camera pans back, and there's creepy-ass Ellen. Scares the bejesus out of us. What's up?
But wait. Now I lay me down to sleep, right? The prayer. Yeah. So we're about to exit.
Are we doing this? Are we really doing this?
Enter night. Take my hand off to Neverland.
We will be adding Metallica's Enter Sandman right now to the In Madness Spotify playlist. I'm telling you, it is the most epic playlist of any playlist ever made, podcast or non-podcast. The kids pray, Anna leaves, and we get the long shot. Creepy ass Ellen pops up, scares the bejesus out of everybody. She asks if she can sleep in Anna's room. Meanwhile, Harding is absolutely fed up with the concept of this ghost haunting, as he calls it. Professor Franz assures him it's no ghost. It can manifest physically with foul intent, sole desire, consume all life on Earth.
And Shawn, in the Dracula novel, it's strongly hinted that they have a romantic relationship. The girls, as well, in their letters to each other that they write back and forth. So I wonder if it's time to add to the In Madness Spotify playlist.
Go
My
ahead.
Girlfriend's Girlfriend by Typo
Negative, adding to the In Madness Spotify playlist. This may be the most song ads from a movie. I don't know. We've had some crazy ones. That's great. You're doing great, Vertebrae. The creature is a force more powerful than evil. It is death itself. Every quote Defoe says in this movie would make a great sample on a metal song.
Absolutely.
Harding is pissed. I haven't slept in days. My house is a damned freak show, and you've brought me back here to talk about zombies?
He's finally getting mad. Like, man, they really, this guy, they mess with him so bad, this poor fella.
Franz gets pissed. This part kind of reminds me of him yelling at Pattinson in Lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
He marches right up to him, gets in his face, and says, I've seen things that would make Isaac Newton crawl back in his mother's womb. I have wrestled with the devil. If we are to tame darkness, we must first face that it exists. We are encountering the undead plague carrier, the vampire, Nosferatu.
They do it. They mention his name more than once in this movie. I know you don't like that when they say
I don't mind it in this. It's the dude's name. It's the dude's name. If they're like, it's time to die hard, then I'm like, give me a fucking break. But like, it's his name. I'm down. I'm fine with it. That's cool. That
gave me an idea. I think on all the episodes, I'm going to try to throw in Madness.
Shoehorn in, yeah.
Shoehorn in Madness into everything.
Anna and Ellen are asleep in bed. Ellen slowly, creepily rises up like a zombie, like a puppet in a trance. She heads to the window, opens it, and magically next to her, Orlok appears in the bedroom. Standing like a creep in the corner, she tells him she has felt him crawling like a serpent in her body. He says it's not him, it's her nature. She loves Thomas, though. Orlok says love is inferior to her. You are not of humankind. He says, I am an appetite, nothing more. Over centuries, a loathsome beast, I lay in the darkest pit till you woke me, enchantress. Stirred me from my grave. You are my affliction. This is our fate.
Centuries. He was asleep for centuries. So, two things about that, Shawn. One, it kind of goes with what you were talking about, the connection between, there's such a strong connection that after centuries, we're led to believe that no one else would have any of these kind of connections to cosmic forces like she does. Or was she directly calling out to him rather than a guardian angel? I don't know. Secondly, do you ever take a nap in the middle of the day and it just goes wrong? You wake up and you're just miserable. You think you're going to be refreshed and you just feel awful. This might explain Nosferatu being so cranky in this movie.
Cup of coffee.
Dude was just sound asleep for centuries, having the best sleep of his undead life. And then you wake him up and now he's got to go through this whole thing. And I also would like to think that he's not being played. He's aware, I believe, of where this is headed. And he doesn't care. I don't think
because he's been asleep for centuries, and man, Nosferatu has woke up horny as ever.
And cranky.
And cranky, but mostly horny to die for.
To die for.
And he goes, oh, and by the way, your husband signed his name and gave you to me for a sack of gold. She goes, bullshit. He goes, for a sack of gold. Orlok tells her she must complete this ritual free of her own will. We get this sick face-to-face shot of Orlok hovering creepily above her. He says, she was just a child. Orlok says, you thought I would never return? Your passion is bound to me. He's like caressing around her face as he's talking. Their faces
Gotta
are
stink with
oh,
the
it's got
melly
to.
hand.
But
He's
this
got to reek.
whole thing is hot. It's really, really, really hot, I think.
Not for me, but maybe for
Oh
you.
man, it's like so like I was like, what is gonna happen here? Are they gonna like bang? They didn't this time, but Jesus Christ. Ellen wants no part of it. She's like, I hate you. You disgust me, which pisses off Orlok. Angrily throws her to the floor, and he's like, all right, that's it. You got 3 nights. This is the first. You've denied yourself, and now you will suffer my wrath. I will vanish the lives of those you love. Uh-oh.
Yeah, and also like the 3 days or whatever for her to decide is so very fairy tale, which is really cool about this, or old folklore. Like there could be some evil stuff, but they're gonna give you a chance out of it, and it usually we'll give you a couple days to work it out type thing. It's very interesting. I wonder where he goes for those 3 days. He goes back to his house that he got, I guess, lays back down in the box.
Check out some vampire playboys.
So what I don't know is the boat crashed. Presumably he's like the wolf that like there was dogs, I guess, that ran off it, or he's contained in the rats in this case. I'm not really sure. How did he get that dirt that he needs to lay in to his new house? Because the whole boat was destroyed, so there's no cargo taken off. In the Dracula story, they actually there's an excerpt in there that sort of explains that the people who delivered it properly to this really, really creepy place, and they did what
I
they were
bet
told
Eric
to do.
set it up somehow.
I guess he doesn't seem like the most put together dude, though.
He probably did it before he went crazy, like when he was doing the thing with the Thomas in the beginning, sending him.
Yeah, but the boat is completely obliterated. The dirt is just everywhere. It's just in the this I'm sorry, Shawn, I bring in logistics into this, but it's a beautiful film. I love so much about it, but I couldn't tell like, okay, where does he go and how did that go down?
He says on the 3rd night you submit, or Tommy boy, he's gonna get the axe. Capiche? Till you call upon me, you shall watch the world around you die. She screams, he screams. She wakes up gasping for air. She looks over and there's Anna on the floor getting chewed up by rats, which reminds me of one of my favorite Black Dahlia murder songs, Dawn of Rats, from the Verminous record, which I am adding to the Yid Madness Spotify playlist. Rest in peace to my man Trevor Sternad. Ellen screams at this horrible sight as the shadowed hand of Orlok covers her. He's like, now you've got 2 more nights. Cut to the hospital, all out mayhem, everyone freaking out, losing their damn mind, total hysteria, everyone's got the plague. Orlok has cursed the town.
It's crazy. Dogs and cats living together. Mass
hysteria. Anna's in bed, dying, talks about her baby, who she's also currently pregnant with. She wants to see her daughters. Harding, distraught by her side, is like, no, we're not doing that. Harding has had it. Ellen tries telling him about the curse, about the demon. He's like, get the hell out of my house. You and Thomas, best of luck. Just leave. They argue. She says, everyone is going to die. Von Franz is inspecting crazy-ass Eric Knox's cell. There's like dried blood and shit, like symbols all over the wall.
Yeah, and there's all the carvings too. I guess for that scene, they had it on the opposite side of the opposite wall. They had this really intricately, incredibly carved symbols. There's a lot of these heptagrams that are throughout it as well. The 7-pointed stars. So, but you don't actually even see it in the movie because I guess when they went to shoot it, it just didn't make sort of logistical sense to get the camera angles that he needs in this film. Although they built things, there was a room that they actually had to open up, so the wall was on like wheels, so they would have to open it and kind of bend it in another direction just to get the camera and get the angles, because he loves continuous shots. He doesn't, I think this film is the first time he ever does like a fade to something else, but in any of his films. But yeah, it's very, very elaborate filmmaking by Eggers.
They then break into Erkanok's office. I just noticed there's also a dead dude laying on the floor outside with a dog just picking away at it. This fucking plague. What a nightmare of a time to be alive. Professor Franz finds Erkanok's Shrine of Evil. Massive books, skulls, pentagrams, bones. He says, pull up the rug. And like the Riddler in the Batman, there's the whole plan. Under the rug, the 7-pointed star of Nosferatu, surrounded with all these symbols. This is where Erkanok was naked, raving around like a lunatic in the beginning of the movie.
And that scene there, Eggers points out, is so too darkly lit and too much haze. But he said that whole thing with the bones and the skulls is just so much cool. It's actually scarier in person. And they have all the papers there with, they've really written stuff out on them, and they had a calligrapher writing out stuff that they needed. It's just an incredible amount. Again, there needs to be a book that documents all of this.
The attention to detail is indescribable. Ellen and Thomas are stumbling through the streets. Dead bodies, horse shit, dogs, rats everywhere. Absolute nightmare. Von Franz is telling Harding that Ellen and Thomas are in terrible danger. He must see them immediately. Where are they? He's like, I sent him home, dude. You what? How do you kill this demon? Franz doesn't know, which pisses off Harding even more. Yeah. Franz says it varies greatly from region to region. There is one thing that interests me most. In every account, Nosferatu must return to the earth where it was buried by first cock crow. The first cock-a-doodle-doo of the rooster in the morning.
Yeah, and Eggers points out that he believes this to be the coming of day rather than sun. So we get a lot of vampire stuff where it's like the sun's rays beat down on you, and then the vampire, and it kills you, or they smoke up, or we had at the end of 30 Days and Nights, and a ton of films where they do that. And obviously you could get away with that if you just like close the shades and, went into a closet or something, you would be fine. So he seems to think it's more about, when that happens, it's day, and like you can't be awake during day. That'll kill you.
Doc says it must be in its grave by day. What if it's not? Franz says, that, my good sir, is the question. Mm-hmm. Harding has himself a laugh before kicking both their asses right out the door. This is a real plague, killing real people, not some satanic magician or any other fantasy. Calls Franz a laughing stock, says Ellen should have been committed to an institution long ago. His precious Anna simply has been bitten by vermin. That is all. Get out. Thomas awakens. He's in better condition. He wants to get the hell out of the city immediately, but Ellen says she has to tell him something. Thomas knows Orlok has come to Visburg for her. She tells him she knows Orlok. I brought this evil upon us. I never told anyone. I looked for company, tenderness. I called for it. First it was sweet, quickly turned to torture. It would kill me, but Thomas, you gave me the courage to not be ashamed. He took me as his lover, and then now as he has come back, he knows about us being married. He's back and he's pissed as hell. He stalks me in my dreams. Every thought is of him. Thomas tries to comfort her, but she shoves him away. She turns her back on him and slowly turns to Thomas and says he never wrote her any letters when he would promise he would when he was out at Orlok's castle. She says, Orlok told me you sold me for a sack of gold. She starts going in on Thomas hard. Where's your money, fool? Your promotion, your house, everything you think is so damn precious. She throws a cabinet over, sending dishes crashing on the floor. She's seizing up, spazzing out, screaming, none of these material possessions matter. We should have never got married. We're already dead. She falls to her knees, rips open her dress, screams, and falls on her face. Then possessed, crazy-ass Ellen begins sounding like The Exorcist, shaking and stops, and this large gob of spit comes out of her mouth. She raises her head, her jaws clenched, her eyes are rolling back in her head, veins are popping out of her face. She's making this creepy-ass sound. She sticks her tongue out of her mouth between her teeth, and in the theater, I'm like, oh, man, this bitch about to bite her tongue clean off, isn't she?
Yeah, this is an incredible scene by the actor here. This is just, she does an incredible job. It's weird to say, I paused when I said that because it's like I want to say Depp, right? Because that's her last name.
Mhm.
But it's almost like you have to say the whole name, like Lily Rose Depp, because when you say Depp, you just think of Johnny Depp. But it's an incredible job by her in this scene, and all of that spazzing and all of that stuff they trained her to do is absolutely amazing. And this turn that she makes on him, where she's talking nice and she's sort of in and out of being possessed, is pretty amazing. This is just really top-notch acting right here.
Thomas is like, I'm gonna go get the doctor. And then she quickly snaps. She screams and begs him not to leave. She says she'll be good. Crawls toward him with this gob of spit hanging off her face. She crawls to his feet and pulls herself up to his crotch. And again, completely changes emotion. She slowly looks up in his intense stare and says, "You could never please me as he could."
Mm.
Woof. So right there, Thomas takes her. They start ravishly banging, and she tells Thomas to kiss her heart, kind of like Orlok when he's chewing away on the blood flesh pump. She says, "Let him see our love." And we get this sick flash of Ellen with blood coming out of her eyes and her mouth and her every hole in her face, and scares the crap out of Thomas, and he backs off.
It's so weird that I wrote in my notes, like, what's going on? Like, let's just say one moment the guy is sick in bed. He can't even like lift up his head. And then she's talking nice to him, and then she's mad at him, and like, basically, you're a loser and you couldn't do it. You didn't even write me. You're not a real man. That's what it feels like. And then he's like, "Oh yeah," and then we have that, and then they go back to just the weirdness again. This is
And then
something.
again, she snaps and begins laughing and says, "Without you, I will become a demon." Thomas grabs her and shakes her and tries to snap her out of it, tells her he loves her, holds her close, and once again, she switches emotions and begins crying hysterically. She says, "He'll kill you if you don't go to him. We'll be torn apart and the world will suffer." Thomas won't have it. He will kill Orlok so he cannot harm Ellen again. Von Franz opens up Eric Knox's enormous book with the 7-pointed star. It's a picture of a demon laying upon a naked woman in bed, sun shining in the window. Franz says the maiden fair offered up her love unto the beast, lay with him in close embrace until the first cock crow. Her willing sacrifice broke the curse and freed them from the plague of Nosferatu. They said it again.
Mm-hmm.
He looks up in shock and says, "She is the way." We see Orlok's shadowed hand hovering above Ellen. She is wide awake on the floor, breathing heavily. Orlok says tomorrow night will be Thomas's last. Shadow of his hand covers Harding, asleep in bed, holding his gun. Orlok says, "Wake not." The children begin yelling in the other room. Harding will not wake up. Anna and her plagued ass in a panic tries to wake up Harding unsuccessfully. Goes to check on the kids, who are now screaming bloody murder. Anna runs across the hallway, throws open the door. You thought I forgot? You thought I forgot? Which, my friends, finally, more than 3/4 of the way into the movie, brings me to my milking of the alpaca's moment. In the theaters, I remember it right at this moment saying to myself, "Holy shit." They went all in. This was the lighthouse seagull smashing for me. This was
Yes.
oh my God. Eggers really crossed the line. But it got me hooked. Anna opens the door. The children are screaming. We hear this loud, disgusting crunch, pop, snap like a bite into an apple, and the screaming stops until Anna begins screaming. There, standing in front of the window, Orlok, one dead daughter in one hand on the floor. The other, Orlok is holding by her neck, sucking all the blood out of her. He releases his grasp. Her head just falls backward, and he throws her on the floor like a doll. Both kids are now dead. Insane. Crazy.
Yeah, my least favorite scene in the movie, the stuff with the kids or the animals always get me a little bit, but yeah, he really went for it, and it's in shadow at least, so it's a really, really cool shot. But then we don't see her again. Like, we don't see her demise, and then we cut away, which is very interesting as well.
It is creepy, like to the millionth percentile, and that was only one of many milking of the alpaca's moments. Definitely Eric Canuck biting the head off the pigeon was right up there for me. Orlok turns and again horrifyingly approaches Anna, and that's the last we get or we know of Anna's demise.
And we cut to this scene, Shawn. I'm going to steal your thunder for a second
Go
because
ahead.
it's immediate into the scene, but they're carrying these coffins, these small coffins. And it's interesting. Eggers points out that they were not made of balsa wood. So they're actually like very, very heavy. So the people carrying them were trying to make it seem like they weren't as heavy as they actually were. And they're these very super tall looking coffins, which was apparently very in style for Germans, like wealthy Germans at that time. Like it's like a, opulence thing, like the show of how much money you have. You can make like a taller coffin or something. It's interesting. And we get snow again, Shawn. I forgot to point out in the first episode, but all the snow in this movie is potato flakes.
Sick. Sounds delicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
We see Doc Thomas and Ellen and Professor Franz present at this funeral. He walks with Ellen to tell her more will die. Harding spots this ragtag bunch of pals and is just infuriated. Get the hell out of the graveyard. Get away from my dead family.
Yeah, I was bad on that. I don't know why they go. I mean, they're not only going to it, but they're going to it to like recruit him, which is like even worse. They're not even.
There's no time to wait.
Yeah.
Thomas shows Harding his chewed up chest and tells him these nightmares do exist. Doc and Franz are shocked Thomas doesn't have any blood plague after Orlok was feasting on him. Tom says the nuns helped him recover, but he can still feel Orlok's spell. Franz is ready to destroy the beast. He says Orlok was kept in his coffin in Grunwald Manor, right under their noses. They're going to sanctify the earth where he was buried, destroy the sarcophagus, which is like Nosferatu's bed. Then he'll have nowhere to go at the first cock crow.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas says he will drive a spike of cold iron through Orlok. Ellen's like, what if that don't work? Franz is like, She walks Franz to his home. She tells Franz she knows she's the key. He says he's just a tourist in this world of the occult. She was born into it, a rare gift. She says her spirit is not evil, but she is such a strong link with Orlok. Franz says we must know evil to destroy it. We must discover it within ourselves, and when we do, crucify the evil within us.
Shawn, was that a red gift or rare gift? For some reason, I thought he said red gift, but I could be wrong.
I think he said rare. At least that's what I was getting from subtitles.
Yeah, but to the carriage interior on this is they had to build it out because the actual carriage would be too small for them to film in the way they needed to. But Harding in this scene, man, he says like twice, like "forgive me," because my head's not like it's not in it, and I'm like, why do you keep apologizing? You just left your family's funeral. Why are you apologizing that you don't want to go on this crazy adventure with the worst Scooby-Doo gang of all time? Like, it's interesting. This poor fella, man, he really
every minute of this movie gets worse for Harding. From the second you see him, he's at the absolute top, and then like everything is just a steady missile nose decline into the dirt for Harding.
And he's such a nice guy. Yes, obviously he's loaded. So there's a piece of that story, and a lot of time in stories they'll make characters a certain way so that when they do these awful things to him, we won't be as sympathetic, or we won't, he wasn't really like that nice of a guy. But besides like being, filthy rich, which he may have earned every penny of, he's a really, really nice guy.
He loaned Thomas money. He watched after Ellen.
Yeah, nothing but pain and suffering comes to this guy.
Franz tells Nosferatu probably won't be killed with any iron stake. I think only you can stop the beast. He says in heathen times she would have been a great priestess of Isis, but in this strange modern world, her purpose holds greater worth. You are salvation.
She's salvation or the cause of the entire thing.
Or yes. Yeah. She started it and now she has to end it.
It's like starting a fire in your house and then being the one to put it out at the same time. Like it's interesting.
He tells her he will keep Thomas busy tonight. He tells her he will keep Thomas busy. Go home and be with him and prepare him for this false hunt. At home, Ellen tells Thomas he needs to put an end to all of this. She makes him promise not to return until Orlok is dead. He promises, they kiss, he leaves, and she says goodbye.
Yeah, and he's behind her, and he leans the first time and kisses her on her neck, which I couldn't help but think, and Eggers doesn't mention this, but we get a lot of, most of the time when we see vampires, it's the neck, right? That suck their blood from the neck,
I
but not
did
like the chest and
notice
the heart.
in this it was chest. Yeah, I
But
was
it's
like, that's
chest, which he, comes from, he said, like, vampire folklore. Also, too, that they would have like a red face, and there's a little bit of that in here, but it's lit in a certain way that you can't see it. But this part, he's behind her and he kind of reaches around and like kisses her on the side of the neck, which I thought it was kind of a neat little nod to what we would have assumed takes place in, and what does take place in other vampire films.
back at Harding's house. Harding is missing. Franz wants to wait for him to return. Thomas and Doc want to find him. We see Harding at the mausoleum. He opens the door and sees the two small caskets holding his daughters. The dude is wrecked. He approaches Anna's casket, lays his head on it, and we see he's got the plague. Fucking Harding. Nothing has gone right for him the whole movie. Filthy rich, happy every single moment, and then his family dies, and now he's got the plague. Coughs blood onto the casket. He's also destroyed by the loss of their young baby. Oh, yeah, just in case you forgot. He opens the coffin, lifts Anna's corpse, and kisses her. Franz, Doc, and Thomas arrive at the mausoleum, and Harding is passed out or dead, and he's laying on top of Anna. Did he have sex with this corpse?
No, I don't think so.
It certainly looks like he did when they found him.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
We did notice that when we watched it the second and third time. Either way, Franz could care less. He just wants to set him on fire, which he does. Then the boys head to Orlok's house. We get the 6 shot of Orlok's pale eyes. Dude totally knows they're coming. Ellen heads to a window, opens and says, I am ready. Come to me. Back at the house, the men find Orlok's sarcophagus. The whole entire room is infested with rats. Thomas approaches, opens the lid. Thomas strikes down with the cold steel spike, and who does he hit? Crazy ass Eric Knock, taking a little snoozer in his master's bed. Professor von Franz takes a large hammer and screams, Die, you accursed misbirth of hell, and smashes the spike further into Eric Knock. Franz instructs the men to burn the place down. But now Thomas knows Orlok is headed for Ellen, and Franz like, it must be her. He cannot resist her blood. Doc's like, you're crazy. You knew Orlok wouldn't be here? Thomas is like, this is not moral. But Franz is smiling and laughing. This has gone beyond our morals. Thomas and Doc head to Ellen, but Franz insists they run in vain. You cannot outrun her destiny. Her dark bond with the beast shall redeem us all. For when the sunlight breaks upon the dawn, redemption, the plague shall be lifted. And we get this awesome shot of von Franz burning the whole place down. He's got his back to the camera. Flames are rising everywhere. He throws his hands in the air and just screams, redemption. So sick.
What an incredible scene. That whole diatribe that he goes on, I will say, like, that's Defoe in movies in a nutshell. Just does an incredible job. Not sure many actors that can pull that off the way he does. He just sort of rides the line of, you're inspired, but he seems crazy, but maybe he really does know what he's talking about, and just his voice and everything. Very, very cool.
We cut to Ellen dressed as a bride staring out the window watching Orlok's place burn. We get this iconic shot of the wall, the silhouette of Orlok doing the hand thing, slowly creeping, the nod to the original. All along the walls, up the stairs, we see the shadow of the hand rise to the doorknob and open it. And standing on the other side is Ellen waiting for him.
And she's dressed up, like a bride. She has the veil. She has lilacs on the head veil, which is important because the short lifespan of the lilacs kind of foreshadows what's going to happen to Ellen.
Yeah. He asks you, accept of your own will? She does. Our flesh, your oath has been repledged. Our spirits are one, and so shall be our flesh. Hot. Says, "You are mine." He approaches her. The two are face to face. Orlok slowly raises his shaking hand to her face like he is just like fighting the urge to rip her apart.
Mm-hmm.
He puts his big long fingers and gross hand on her face. It's gotta stink. Makes his move, and the two start making out.
Gross.
Ellen lays in bed naked ass, chewed up. Orlok gets right on top of her and commence to undead vampire sex. Orlok chomps right into her naked chest and begins gulping all the blood out of her body. The men are running back to Ellen. The sun is beginning to rise over the city, giving this beautiful shot, and it once again looks like a painting. Orlok digs his face out of her chest and looks out the window, and he's like, "Oh man, sun's coming up. I better wrap this up and get to bed." But even in the face of death, Orlok will not turn down his horniness for some sweet lovemaking. Ellen's like, "Nah, keep going." And he's like, "All right." And just keeps going and eating away on her. And then we get the first cock crow. Can you do it, Vertebrae?
No.
Come on, do it. That's it. Orlok is screwed. Again, he picks up his head from her chest, and this geyser of blood comes spilling out of his mouth. We see naked, chewed up, bloody Orlok, who looks at Ellen like, "You clever little sneak. You got me. You stay out past my curfew." Slowly gets up, and he's getting burnt by the sun. Ellen raises up, grabs Orlok's face, who immediately starts vomiting all the blood back up. Ellen's shaking. She's in a trance, holding his face. Once again, the faces and the sun, and this dude just gets annihilated.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting burnt, though, Shawn. Like, there's no smoke or anything. I think it's more what Edgar said is just the concept of it's daylight and he's still there.
Yeah, his outsides are sort of turning. His insides are becoming his outsides.
Yeah.
Blood's coming out of his mouth, his eyes, his nose. He grabs onto Ellen and lets out this scream, and all the blood's pouring out of his body. He falls into her chest. They lay down naked in the bed, just as Thomas and Doc show up at the door. Perfect timing. Ellen is laying there holding dead Orlok on top of her. Outside, the morning bell tolls, and Ellen dies. Crazy. Thomas is heartbroken. Professor Franz says, "And the maiden fair did offer her love to the beast and lay with him in close embrace until the first cock crow." Lays flowers around the corpses, says her willing sacrifice broke the curse, freed the people from the plague of Nosferatu. We get this great shot of Franz looking out the window and the sun shining in the room. He's gazing out the window, but his back's to the camera, but there's a mirror like under him, and you could see his face and you could see his expression.
Right, to the left.
It's such a cool shot. Immediately followed by another cool shot, bird's eye view, dead Orlok laying on top of Ellen, bloody naked bodies, flowers all over the bed. And now Orlok's got these like little chicken legs and skinny arms. His whole body's like completely emaciated.
Yeah, a couple of things. So one, and we'll get into the ending of this movie, my thoughts on it in a second. But when we cut to the shot of by the window, we see the cat has survived. This might be the first film that we've done on the In Madness podcast where not only does the animal survive, but we're clearly told, and Edgar says into the commentary, that we get closure on the cat. Like he thought of that. Like, okay, I need to show this cat again. Maybe he listens to the podcast, Shawn, and he was like, hey, got to give him something different.
Unless Orlok is the cat now.
Why'd you do that?
That's where I'm going with it. In 2025, that's what they do. They'd have the cat turn around like Michael Jackson in Thriller and have Orlok eyes. Cut to black. The end. Great fucking movie.
Yeah. And the end shot of him is an ode to the Iceman, or Otzi, it's called. It was a mummy that existed between the guy who would have existed between 3350 and 3105 BC, and the remains of it look very similar, and it was discovered in 1991 on the Austria-Italy border. So that's where they get a nod to that. The ending of this movie, Shawn, my least favorite part of the movie.
Okay. Go on.
Too much Nosferatu.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
I just felt like seeing him all in light with
Mhm.
the costume and
Mhm.
everything, and all the makeup was just, I needed a little bit more mystery. And then when we would have gotten that final overhead shot of them, it would have been even more dramatic.
Mhm.
Yeah, I felt like it was like a lot. But the last shot felt very much like Eggers, like the end of Lighthouse too. But yeah, not love this movie, love all the hard work that was put into it, the score, everything. But it lands a little differently for me than some of his other films.
I'm saying she's a vampire and Thomas is a vampire, and they both continue on as vampires.
Well, we've never introduced that into this canon here. It doesn't exist. There's no biting and coming back. There's no like,
Yeah. So yeah, he doesn't bite you, and then you become a vampire.
there's no talk of that with him. This
Mhm.
eternal
Okay.
life, this whole
Okay.
pledge, it doesn't exist in this. I think he just knew that this was his fate, because
Mhm.
otherwise, like, he was just tricked.
Mhm.
Like, he wasn't he wasn't that smart. Like, he had to have known that that was going to happen to him, right? But on the other hand, like you said, maybe he knew and didn't care as well.
Yeah.
But where does this where does this sit for you in the grouping
I
of
think we
Eggers
spoke of it
movies?
in the last episode. For me, it's like Witch.
But now you saw it deeper again, so
You
now
know,
I'm asking again.
I love this in theaters. I couldn't wait to watch it. Please, I couldn't wait to watch it again, the extended cut and then the unextended cut, and then just reviewing it again for this. I've loved it every time I saw it. I've been very busy this past week, and everyone I've ran into, I'm like, "You see Nosferatu? You like Nosferatu?" And everyone's like, "You like that movie?" And like, I
Mm,
feel the opinion is way different than mine for many other people, which is strange. It
mhm,
kind of annoyed me that like no one is as in love with this movie that I have spoke to all this weekend, like I am with this movie. I put it high up there. For me, it's definitely Witch, Nosferatu, Lighthouse, and Northman.
mhm. Hmm.
What about you?
Yeah, so, on one hand, Eggers' movie, chock full of gnarly bits and all of the behind the scenes stuff, very gothic, would definitely be up my alley. But I would put it behind both The Lighthouse and The Witch, and I would put, depending on the day of the week, Northman and that is the same,
Mm,
depending. But I can flip that whole order. I hate putting things in order at a moment's notice, because I could just take a break from this and watch it again and be like, oh man, So I think the I think the reason is I'm already so familiar with the story of it, from Nosferatu, from Dracula, from other films. Whereas when I took the ride with the witch and the lighthouse, the first time you see it, you have absolutely no idea where this is headed. Absolutely no idea.
we'll get
It,
into it further in the next episode, but maybe that's why I love this so much, because my knowledge of it was zero. It was less than zero. So I didn't know
right.
the whole story, and I was like, "This is
But
friggin'
you do know
awesome."
about vampires, whereas
Yes.
opposed to what I know about, Massachusetts witches, or, lighthouse keepers. He could have based that directly on some other story, and we've talked about it, and then go back to our lighthouse episode and talk about his influences that he does, and he uses for that movie and for the witch. But I didn't know them as well, because it's not as ingrained into society as vampires and Dracula is. So I think that's where kind of, but like, that being said, it's almost a silly conversation, because it's just beautifully shot, beautifully directed. The acting is incredible. The score, e- everything is just done so well. I just wonder. I think over time I'll have to see. Will I watch this as much as I would watch The Witch and The Lighthouse?
This is gonna be an annual Christmas watch for me, 100%.
Yeah. What about The Exorcist?
No, and I was to say way further over The Exorcist. No, The Exorcist, It's a yearly watch, maybe. Sometimes I'll even skip a year just to make the impact a little harder. No, I love The Exorcist, but I can't. The rewatchability for me lays more in movies like this and Halloween and The Thing and stuff. I dig The Exorcist movies. I don't know, depending on what it is. Movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Exorcist, I love them and I hold them dearly. But to like rewatch them as constantly as I do these other movies, I feel like that's not one of my rewatchables like on a constant basis.
Right. And we have only one Eggers film that we didn't do. So we'll have to do the Northman. I think we'll wait a little bit.
It'll
We'll take
probably
a
be on a
break and we'll
vote
get
too.
to
Yeah,
it.
100%. You have all your bits in. Are you happy with our Nosferatu episode? So, like, your final take on this movie. You dig it. There's just logistical questions and other things.
You know what's funny, Shawn? I just said the Northman, and I was talking about the books. I believe there might be a making of the Northman book, and I may own it. I'm not look at the pile, but there's not been anything for The Witch and the Lighthouse like that, and for Nosferatu yet. But I'll have to double check that. I could be thinking of something else, but yeah, I got all my gnarly bits in. Thank you to everyone who listens on a weekly basis. Please, the listens are going up. Please spread the word. Shawn will tell you every time we do this. We love the reaction we get from people. We love the interactions we get to it. Go back and listen to our episode before with Tim Halley. Was a really, really good episode. I'm Vertebrae33 on all the socials. I've got a bunch of merch. You can go to inmadness.com, buy our shirts. Shawn, what are we doing next week? What's going on?
So, I mean, do we tease it? I mean, we're doing a 0.5. We're going to do a 0.5, but I dove deep into this vampire thing based on listening to our first Nosferatu episode and all the things you were saying. And you're like, well, you know about this and you know about that. And I'm like, actually, I don't know shit about any of this stuff. So I spent an entire weekend watching and catching up on all this lore. So I just want to talk more about the original Nosferatu, and then dive a little further into some vampire lore for our next 0.5. And we already have our movie picks for after that, which we will tease in our next 0.5 episode. But yeah, in the next episode, I'm gonna talk about 2 movies actually, and then like whatever the hell we want to talk about. But it'll be a little bit more vampire lore, but that'll probably be the end of the vampires for In Madness Pod for a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you everybody for listening. Shawn, you got one more Nosferatu impression before we go?
No, I think the ones you did were the best, and I don't have the mustache props either. Make sure you follow us on the socials at In Madness Pod, and make sure you email us. We'll dip into the mail sack in an upcoming episode, inmadnesspod@gmail.com. Make sure you check out the In Madness Spotify playlist, which we are adding so many songs to after this episode. And yes, we will see you next week for a brand new episode. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. Let us know what you thought of Nosferatu on the socials. This is In Madness Pod.